Yeah.
Okay.
It's better, but they don't need how they can
Right, please don't judge by Kramer.
That's like 57 in water.
But they didn't have Sharpie available.
All right, we're on. We're on, yeah?
Yep.
Cool, okay. So I think for the counselors, I think we should turn on our mics just to make sure the recording is really good. I feel like we'll have a lot of folks catching up on the recording afterward. So at 6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and get started with our workshop to discuss the town hall. Just before we get started, just to kind of reiterate where we are on June 28th, I believe, was the date of our public hearing on this topic. And this is the first time that the council was available to get together to discuss what we heard from our residents at that point, and kind of figure out what our next steps are going to be. So this is an open public workshop from the perspective of like, we're happy to have members of the public here to listen in. If anyone's on Zoom, thank you for joining us, but this is just a conversation this evening between the counselors and the staff. Because we just need an opportunity for us to talk about it, and there will be ample opportunity in the future for public comment, but for those of you who decided to come this evening, thank you. So I think that's kind of where we're at. Anything else that I missed from anybody that? Okay. So I thought that kind of a good starting point for us, similar to how we did with the public, where we asked very like specific questions, try to get specific feedback. I'm curious from the council, do we think that we have enough information at this point to move forward on a decision, or do we feel like we need to gather additional information?
So I think the biggest thing we need to start with, after living the police station along with you towards the end,
Yep.
reading the emails we received and public comment, I think the first thing we really need to do is educate everybody on what we can and can't do. Reading the emails, a little concerning with views on ADA compliance and what it meets. I don't think everybody understands that once we start this project, we have a set of parameters from the state and the government that we cannot deviate from. So as soon as we start the renovation, if we start the renovation here and we go over 50% of the value of the building, which is around $500,000-600,000,
Mhm.
it locks us into doing everything as far as being ADA compliant. That's not just a parking lot. It's not just an elevator. I think people need to realize that, and it's not like we're renovating our home where this year we're going to do the bathroom and in 2 years we're going to do the kitchen.
Mhm.
So I think we need to make sure, and again, reading those emails and some of the feedback we got, I think that we all need to be on the same page that this is going to be a big project and we don't have any choice in what we're going to do. If we choose to do this here, we are lockstep in what we need to do. So I just want to make sure they understand that before we go making any decision, honestly.
And to follow up on that point, and just to make sure, given how much square footage we think we're gonna need, we're for sure gonna exceed that 50% mark in this building were we to renovate. So what that means is that all of the ADA compliance, all of the issues, I guess, that we need to address in the building, we have to address every single one and throughout the entire building, whether we're using that space or not.
Correct. If you look at these windows, they're custom windows. They're not, let's call Anderson and pay $2,000 a window.
Mhm.
We can't brick up the windows to make them smaller because the idea of the town hall being here is the historic look and the look of the actual building. So we can't change the actual look of the building by making the windows smaller to make them cheaper. So again, if we want to keep this as the focal point downtown, then going forward, and you're right, we're going to need 2 floors. 2 floors is going to tap us into over 50% of what the value is of the building, no matter what we view the value of the building today, tomorrow, or next year.
Okay, so I'm just keeping track of, I'm just gonna try to keep track of some of that. So we definitely, I mean, throughout this entire process, we want to make sure that we're keeping the public informed as to what our decisions are, why certain decisions are a certain way. One thing that I had an idea about that, again, isn't specific to kind of like the feedback from the public, but as as we continue throughout this process to kind of create a kind of living document of like FAQs, I guess, online. Because I feel like lots of questions like kind of, well, why don't we just renovate only half of the building and leave the rest as is? Like, you know, I think that's a perfect question to throw on there. And to just kind of start keeping track of those questions that come in and like put them on the website so that it's a living document and we're continually adding to it as we move
And
forward.
we could direct them there, right? The roof, there's no sense doing anything unless you do the roof, because if we do 2 floors and the roof leaks, we just ruin 2 floors.
Mhm.
So Melanie, that's perfect, because if we had it there, we could, if someone comes with those questions, we can say, did you go here? Here's the information. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
Since you kind of went first, John, any other information, like as far as what we think? What other information do you feel like we need, if any?
So you reported at the last meeting that we're gonna end up having to have an engineer come for the insurance side of it, correct?
Correct, so I received the property and casualty report from MMA, an insurance carrier. They requested a civil engineer do an inspection on the brickwork on the outside of the farm wing, as well as the windows, because the windows are life safety. He said, basically, it's only the windows where the offices are occupied, so that if they need a second way out, the fire department can rescue them without breaking the window, they could open the window and seek help. So he said, we're only going to enforce those windows and any brickwork that causes a safety issue. So he said that they would require a formal certification from an engineer. I will report at the next council meeting that we did reach out to civil consultant across the street, because they know the building, and ask them to, give us a quote to do that. And they've done that, and I'll have that at the next council meeting. So they, to reiterate, Mr. James, what you said, Council James, MMA reiterated the same thing, exactly for word verbatim. If you want to in the conversation, then you must have my office bugged. They said exactly the same thing. Beyond 50%, MMA will require the town to do a full renovate. They won't allow you can do small portions of it, but once you begin to hit that threshold, it's a whole, you gotta do it all.
So I think once we get that information, we could start formulating a look forward, and then we have enough time between now and November that if we see which direction we're going, I don't want to do a poll. I'd rather do a vote on a ballot of which direction they want to go. And in all honesty, because every time we do a poll, which we did one, it was fantastic, we get the complaints of, well, I'm an absentee voter, I didn't get to do it. So if it's on a ballot, everybody gets their shot to say yes or no on which direction we want to go. I would hope we could have a general direction by that point. But I think once Tim gets us that information on the windows and the brickwork, I think we could start picking a path.
So I think on the ballot topic, I'm trying to remember last summer, Barbara, for the Great Works Land Trust, what was the timeline that we needed to get language onto the ballot?
End of this month.
Yeah, so I feel like the timeline's a little tight for that, and then,
Never mind, sorry.
Um,
The deadline is nomination papers.
Yep.
yeah.
Sorry, I forgot.
But even regardless, if the timeline were more convenient, I guess, for what we're trying to do. This is my personal opinion. I feel like there's some more information that we need, that I would like to see us gather specifically around, we heard from the public, at least at the public hearing, that the sentiment is definitely from at least that group was vast majority in favor of renovating. And I feel like I would like to kind of push that topic a little bit in terms of gathering some additional information or potentially additional estimates. Because I feel like we can't move forward just strictly based on the somewhat high level information we received from Port City. That's my 2 cents.
I'm good with that. I said, again, the more we get, the better. I was just looking at trying to get more feedback from the public
Yeah,
in a measurable way. other
Yeah.
than just a public hearing.
Unfortunately, I think. Do we all agree that the timeline's way too tight to do that?
To get anything meaningful.
Yeah, to get like a substantive, like, I feel like we have way more information we need to gather before we. Put it out to the public. As an actual vote.
I think I've lost half a year. I didn't realize how late it was, so.
Okay, anything else from you, John?
No,
Any other?
no, I'm good.
Okay, I'm just gonna kind of go down the line and we can talk about stuff. Jeff. What, like, where are you at? Do you feel like we have enough information to make a decision, or what other information do you want to gather?
I felt like going into it, we were saying to the public that there would be more and that's where my head was. I felt like it was a decent start. As I plugged in stuff from the emails that we got, or the written, as well as the public, the 46, I saw 23 explicitly saying renovate, 3 saying to build new, and 20 just talking. I'm not really identifying exactly, and I did feel like that was a missed opportunity, but.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. So, but you're referencing the email communications that we
And
received
the public.
and the public comment.
That's the last.
We,
Yeah.
just for the public, we did receive a number of emails. It is from folks who weren't able to attend the public hearing, who were not in favor of renovating. And those are going to be posted to the website soon, so I just wanted to make sure. everyone-
Everything that I was just talking about was on the website.
Yeah,
That was
okay, cool.
So, and I felt like after that meeting, it was clear, a lot of people were saying to renovate the current place. But I 100% agree with John. The background, extra information that they shared, I feel like the public was not quite grasping what renovation really means. Like, we can sprinkle it over a couple of years. So I think moving and having more conversations is definitely, I feel like our process of the last meeting was really good with the one pointed question.
Mhm.
And then, of course, everyone can share more, but I feel like starting at that is a good process to it, asking input for specific. Asking for a specific answer, and getting others. So, one of the questions that kind of came up for me was, conversation about preservation versus renovation.
Mhm.
And I don't know that that's necessarily clear in my head as to what the public, if it's clear in the public's head of whether preservation is wanted or renovation is wanted. And I feel like there's a difference there as far as, I think like preservation is like just protecting, making sure everything stays the same of the building.
Mhm.
Or is it in how those things differ? And I think that might be a good piece for us to at least figure out, so we're not working towards renovation when preservation may have been wanted, if that makes sense.
Mhm. I think, like, just want to be clear, I think what I'd love to walk away from this evening with is like a list of some things that we want to do next, and additional specific pieces of information that we might want to gather, folks we want to reach out to. So, I mean, I think on the renovation versus preservation, I don't know what everyone else thinks. I sort of feel like they're like mushed together, and that's more of like a later conversation. I feel like we first have to kind of get over the hurdle of like, we staying here and going somewhere else. And I think that like, that's still where we're trying to figure out, that's what we're trying to figure out. And then, to John's earlier point, all of the ADA stuff, the exterior, all of like, that's all there no matter what. We're not there's no way for us to get around making those changes.
Yeah, I think preservation went out the window 15 or 20 years ago. We started 15 or 20 years ago doing stuff to the building. We probably could have preserved a lot of what's fallen apart. But I think we're getting to the point now. I think we passed the point. If you look at the chimney, if you look at the boilers, we need to keep the look of the building, but I think we need a gut and go if we're gonna keep the building. Keep the character, it's great bones, it just needs some updating, but the updating is gonna be to code. That's where we get caught up, it has to be to code.
I think the only last piece that I have in my mind, and this is just where my mind rests, is whether, however we feel about the presentation of Port City, I feel that what was provided was what was asked for. And I don't think that it's financially responsible as a council to keep going back and getting more, because other input from other people, just because 47 people came out and said they didn't like the numbers or didn't agree with the numbers, we'll be going back for third, fourth, fifth, sixth, second
But I think-
opinions all the time.
So just like, just to talk about that point, so like our process for bids. Our standard process by code, and keep me honest, is we have to solicit at least 3 bids if we can get them, right?
That's the bid process.
That's the bid process, but that process,
Right,
inherent to that process is us getting multiple pieces of information to weigh, and totally agree with you, Jeff, like, I don't want to just be like throwing away money, but I also feel like it would be financially irresponsible of us to move forward only based on one data point with that, you know? Especially, I mean, I think like we got some really good input from the public about, and I'm curious what the rest of the council thinks, like, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but there was a man who said, you know, his company would be willing to do,
Rob Berry.
thank you, would be willing to kind of take a look and let us know what an estimate might look like. Is that something that we wanna take them up on?
That's something we can legally do? Would be my only question to that.
I'd have to ask the attorney,
Yeah,
probably with a contract, a formal contract saying that these are the parameters that he couldn't, you know, he won't charge us. This is what they'll deliver to us with no charge. So I'm sure there'd have to be some kind of something.
It gets us out of our normal way of doing business, and just want to make sure that if it's legal, I'm all for it, I think it's
Yeah.
great. But I think we ought to ask that question before we get down the road of accepting free service.
I'll have that for you Tuesday night.
cool.
Thank you.
I totally like,
Sorry.
no, I totally like stole your thunder, Jeff, to your email.
No, that was only,
Okay.
those are the things that were in forefront in my mind
Okay,
as far as next steps.
so sorry, it's not super clear to me what you thought the next step should be.
I think, I guess in the next step, I think we still need to talk with the public, but I don't know what the next question would be. You know, because right now what I was left with was, there's not much faith in the presentation that was given to us. And if the council agrees with that, then there is no, all we have to do is move forward because we're back at the beginning. And so that's where I'm stuck. So in my mind, we're at the very beginning. And
Yeah,
there's no any way forward is.
but if we were to get an additional estimate of some sort, that perhaps is maybe more detailed. And the numbers shake out similar to Port City, then I feel like sort of that validated confirmation of a couple data points. If they're wildly different, then I feel like then that affects some additional investigation too. Okay, anything else for now?
No.
Okay. You want the next one? Yeah.
So there's a couple of data points that I would like from the town. I would like to see what the page open rates were for our new town hall page that we publicized and pulled together with that information to see if people are well informed, to see the page loads or the page views.
Not following you, what now?
It's
So
like-
Don should be
Hold your
able to see,
microphone a little closer to you.
Don should be able to see in the back end who's loaded that page, who's launched that page, and then see the number of unique users. So if we have a town, 8,000 people, and only 15 people have hit this page, we have a really ill-informed call. And I would just like to see kind of the adoption, what we need to do to drive traffic to that page to make sure that everybody's getting the information that they should. So I think that that's a data point that I'd like to have. Another kind of point that I think that we should have at this early stage is understanding we've done a lot of work with our budget, kind of looking longer term at the things we may need and making sure that we're clearly like saying, hey, we're gonna have to be taking a look at our transfer station. What's that going to cost? What our debt ratio is and how much we can actually take on. And I don't know if that's something that we can provide at this point, but just to give kind of, if we do this project and we go all in, we may not be able to do X, Y, Z. That's, you know, near term and things that maybe we should consider when we were thinking about the police station. I feel it's regrettable that we don't have enough time to throw something on the ballot. And I don't even know what that would be, just because we're so early on in the process, whether or not it's this or that. But I do think that was kind of a good idea.
Can I jump in real quick on the financial piece?
Mhm.
More of a question for Jen and Tim, is that like, do you follow what that question is, and then is that something that we have, or that we can kind of take a stab at?
Yes and no. So in order to do it, you understand, like Jen kind of already did it.
Yeah.
But we're flying at the 40,000 square foot thing, and we're using the numbers that were given to us. The better, you know, the closer we get to a more dedicated number, the more dedicated we can refine that, you know,
Yeah,
but.
but if I think about work that we had kind of slated ahead of us, the big one that comes to mind is traffic downtown revitalization. And we've established a TIF district in order to help fund that project. Additionally, we're anticipating getting some funding through MDOT for that project as well. So is it, I mean, I feel like it's sort of fair to say that that might be an effort that's working in parallel to this town hall stuff, but the financials are not, we're not overlapping, I guess, from a financial perspective. Is that?
Yeah, the TIF should be able to cover any portion that the town has to pay for the
Yeah.
highlights.
Okay, so that's not a major financial concern.
I was thinking more like transfer station, firehouse, those types of things. If
So-
those are like big ticket items that we need to consider in the next 5 to 10 years instead of 0 to 5 years.
So if you go back 6 years, maybe 7, when you made the 3 engineering students did the study for the transfer station from Maine. At that point, it was right around $500,000 to do it the way they gave it to us in the handout and the brochure. So that's done nothing but add from that point. If we even use that, you're looking at a lot more than $500,000. So I agree. I think it would be nice to at least have a ballpark. I think the information we received for building the new town hall, I think that number's got to be right close because they've just done how many?
But
They've done quite a
They're
few.
doing LA, they're doing
your,
York right now, they did Sanford Town Hall, they did. And I say did, they architected design and they contracted it out.
Right, so I mean, they gotta be pretty close in that ballpark of how much it costs. We know we spent $4 million on the police station.
Mhm.
This is bigger. Cost for us
Inflation.
now again, so we can figure that cost. I don't think the renovation cost, I think it could come up more than what it was, but I think the cost of a new building was pretty close for that financial, that point, but the rest, like I said, I'd like to have more data on financial also.
Mhm. One of the things specifically, like, agree with you, John, on the new build thing, I feel that number doesn't feel like terribly off to me, given the police station, given other town halls that have been built. But the renovation cost to me, like one thing and in a conversation that I had is that, you know, the however many square feet are in this building, like every square foot was applied with that $450, I think it's $450 a square foot, calculation, but like. We have a lot of square footage eaten up by stairwells and the walls are really thick, you know, like, so how. Maybe we can get that number to be a little bit more precise. Because again, the Port City estimate is just a square, you know, dollar amount per square footage. Which,
And I think it's how we do estimates. Where I work is we base it on a man day, we base it on hours. And this fluff, and she even admitted there was fluff, right? So the stairwell fluff
Mhm.
pays for what you found behind the wall that you didn't know was behind the wall, which in this building. Thinking we're gonna find a couple things behind walls, so I agree, but I'm not sure they're that far off if you look at renovation costs in the area and. Look what the Flynn's ran into next door. They ran into substantial issues when they were trying to do it, so. Again, I had more data points would be good.
And I just want to say, you know, sitting on the selection committee for this particular, that was something that we kept in mind, that the other consultants that we had bids from were, you know, Bangor areas, would they actually know Southern needs of renovation?
and Port City is currently doing York Town Hall. And I know that they've done a vast number of other ones too, so,
They're doing Elliott,
yeah,
they're working with Elliott right now, so.
Madam Chair.
yes.
So in response to the work of what the insurance companies asked us to do in getting, I'll give you more information at the meeting. But to give you an idea on cost factor, we have had 3 or 4 companies come give us a cost. And this price was to actually do all the windows,
You're just talking windows right now.
just windows.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm just giving you, so you can have an idea what we're talking, just windows, which was about 105, I think, 109.
It depends how we did them. We were thinking of doing smaller double hung so that they're more user friendly and, you know, it'd be easier to maneuver, doing a transom on top and double hung. So,
That's what they kind of
that's what we
recommended.
recommended.
And so the high end, we've done the full for 400,
160,000
460, the low end, 200 and something.
Entire building,
just for windows, no doors, just windows.
just windows. Okay. And that's another piece. The windows, the concrete on the outside of the building, and the elevator are 3 much more pressing issues that we're likely gonna have to put some money toward in the near term. And so I feel like having is, you know, I know that we have good estimates for the windows. Tim, you and I talked about the elevator and stuff too. I think that that's like an additional piece of information that we need to have as we making decisions. Those have the potential to be quite costly. And I know we're gonna be getting more information and stuff on that next week.
And on, you know, on skating any of this, the insurance company said, you gotta fix these 2 problems. You gotta give us a plan for the next. I got 60 days to give them something that shows we're moving forward. Doesn't mean we have to fix them, and he didn't say he was gonna make them do it all at once, none of that stuff. They were very reasonable about it. They just said, for the safety aspect of life safety and safety for the public, we're going to tell you, if you don't fix it, then we will adjust it, your insurance rates to the underwriters and review it as it goes through. So they are making us get those prices, and they will probably make us fix some of them,
Yeah.
you know. Like, Councilman James said, it's been ignored too long, so we've got to fix the stuff that's falling from.
Yeah. Did you have any other?
The only other thing was, the public-private partnerships and how much like chatter that is to this conversation. And I don't know how to address that and whether or not, what do you mean, like having, a lower floor, subletting that to like private
like
business
this,
or whatever. I think that that's just, it causes a lot of confusion for me when I think about the building and renovating it. So I don't know how to address it kind of moving forward, or whether or not it's kind of we renovate without that or we renovate with it. But it's just something that I'm having a hard time kind of wrapping my head around. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that comes to mind for me with that is like, do we want to be landlords? And I don't know exactly what.
There isn't enough square footage on the second floor to meet what we need, so we have to take some of the first floor anyway. You definitely wouldn't want to come up. You want to go down if you were gonna do anything. So we have to take some of that anyway to meet the square footage we need, because again, because of the way the building's built, there's only certain things you can do in certain areas, so we're gonna need some of the first floor to accommodate what we wanted to do anyway.
Mhm.
Maybe that's something we just kind of moving forward, kind of explain to people that due to the programming that we do with the architects, this is how much square footage we need. And this approach is not going to work for us. So it's information, just like your ADA kind of comments.
That, the town records go everything digital. No, we're not gonna go everything digital. We have stuff going back so long,
Yeah.
you cannot get rid of paper. You can't. That is history, it needs to stay. Put it on a disc, who cares? But the paper needs to stay.
Mhm.
So that's a piece that we need to keep.
I think we're kind of, well, I personally, I'll just speak for myself, in between a rock and a hard place with this, because as a counselor, I truly believe the two most important things is being the voice of your people. And then the second most important thing is to be fiscally responsible.
This is hard.
And so far, when you combine the people that spoke at the public hearing, the emails that we've received, and just talking around town with people, I'd say approximately 250 to 300 people, I think is a fair number, that have reached out or participated in this. We have 8,000 people in this town, 3,000 to 4,000 of them, which are voters, but we've only heard from 300. So predominantly, we have heard renovate seems to be screaming the loudest with the decision. Is that the voice of the people? Should we have to chase the people to hear their voice? I don't believe so. I believe if they care enough, then they will speak up and we will hear from them eventually. But how much time do we allow them to come up with decisions? So with that being said, at this point, myself, I certainly don't feel that I have enough information to make a decision. I am not overly confident in a lot of the information that Port City provided to us. I'd like to see a better breakdown of the estimate. I know they gave us a square footage estimate, but I'm in a trade industry where you can use square footage estimates, but they only work when there's no unknowns. And I think when it comes to, yeah, you can do a square footage estimate for a new build any day, over and over. But when it comes to renovating, I don't think a square footage estimate is fair or true. And I'm also, it goes back to, I certainly agree that if we have a constituent that reached out and has a company that can just fact check. I don't think it would be a bad idea, and like John suggested, obviously we'll need to look into the legalities of it. So at this time, yeah, there's just a lot more. I would particularly like to examine the renovation numbers better, because I don't think. One of my biggest problems is that we asked for a restoration versus a new build, and I think what they gave us was a transformation versus new build. I don't think that some of the things that were in their restoration numbers really lined up with being restoration and was more transformation. So I'd really like to see a more itemized breakdown of the estimate that they actually gave us instead of just the square footage number that they gave us.
You hit on a really good point that we've struggled with for almost 9 years that I've sat here. We had 100 maybe back and forth to the police station. A neighborhood association got very involved, did a lot of work, did a lot of homework. And They were the strong vocal voice, but we had maybe 100 people. We had more with fireworks than we had for anything else we've done in this town. We had them lining up out the door for fireworks. Fireworks is cheap, that doesn't cost anybody any money, and we had 50, 60 people every meeting, different, rotating every meeting. We have to find a way to get more engagement. Again, there's 8,000 people. I know that's why Jeff was looking to see if it's with who came. If we're gonna continue to see the same people and not spread out. We need to find a way to get hold of other people to get that information before we make a decision that in the end, everybody say, well, I didn't know that. Well,
One thing on that point, because I think that there's like. I sort of think about this and there's like two columns almost, there's like public engagement, how do we make sure that we feel good about what we perceive from the public? And then also like the financial story. And I think we have a responsibility to make sure that the public is in the loop on the financial story as much as possible, which I think we've got some more information together for ourselves, obviously to put out for everybody else. But on the engagement side, I think the FAQs thing that I mentioned earlier, which again will be like a living, growing document as we move forward. But then we had also briefly discussed, you know, I think a lot of people had suggested, oh, like you guys should do tours of town hall. And I totally agree. I think that the public needs to understand the ins and outs of the building, what the bathrooms look like all this stuff. But I don't feel like that's a great use of our town resources and our staff to be conducting tours. So I think if we were to spend a little bit of money doing, you know, for real estate, you can do little video tours of the building, and then that's on the website, and then, you know, we can put it on the town Facebook page, and then that gives us a way to, so that the public can really understand more than just this room, more than just the clerk's office. To kind of help with engagement, and in that, hopefully, I don't know if there's a way we can do this, but like kind of highlight this bathroom is not ADA compliant, like these railings need to be taller, whatever that kind of
I'd
stuff.
say, I'm sure we could hit up a real estate agent because they do a great job.
Yeah,
Keller Williams does wonderful, wonderful work.
Chair.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'll let the council know I did that for the public works building in Harris. And that's exactly what we did, cost of $2,500, we hired a real estate video company. They came in, they did an actual live video tour of the building. And in each floor, each room, each office, they, when you clicked on it, it would show you a dotted line where to walk next, and you would take a tour of the building, go over here, and it'd show you the bathroom, and then the little box, you click on the little star, and the box will pop up and tell you bathroom's not ADA compliant, or this is the lunchroom is in the workshop garage, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of people like that because they could sit home at night in a comfortable going home, with the kids watching TV, doing something, click on, walk through the video real quick, and we got a lot of hits. And it's, when it came time for the public hearing, we didn't have anybody show up because they had a.
I was gonna say, we could also use it as a public hearing. We could
Yeah.
also have it playing in the background. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
fantastic idea. I think it's great. And I think it's a good use of money. I mean, I think that'd be a good financial piece right there.
does everyone agree on wanting to do that? Is that something, Tim, you can,
Yeah, well,
Yes.
me in general, start working on that.
okay. Okay, it seems like the consensus from the council is that we need more information. What the specific more information is, I think we need to dig into a little bit. I mean, is it reasonable for us to say we want to get, I mean, I think, Tim, you're gonna look into the legality of us taking up this free offer that we have, but to kind of get a more detailed assessment completed that is not from a renovation standpoint, renovation or what did you call it, restoration, so that we can have something more than just 450 times the number of square feet that we have in this building. I am not familiar with what that process would look like.
Madam Chair, I think one thing that also needs to be addressed is that with all of the trade industries out there, a lot of people, you call a plumber, he gives you a free estimate. You call a landscaper, they'll give you a free estimate. You call a contractor, they'll give you a free estimate. When you're doing something on this scale, an estimate is not free. So when people are asking that we get other bids, that we get other estimates, we're looking at paying another $40,000 to $50,000. So what we have to do is we have to take the initial estimate that Port City gave us and wean through it. And then maybe if we could break down, well, how much is the masonry work going to cost on the outside of the building, and how much would any HVAC work or, you know, heating, plumbing, and maybe get, if we can kind of get a better idea of what those individual costs would be. Then, once you break it down into specific trades, you could call up a plumber and say, hey, this is what we got, can you give me an estimate? And they might offer a free estimate. So, but what I would like the townspeople to understand is that an estimate on this grand scale is not free. And to request that we get 2 or 3 other full estimates for everything that we want done is just not fiscally feasible, not even, and it's just wouldn't be being fiscally responsible.
I agree, but I think like in John King, I think with the police station, for example, we eventually got to a place where we had much more detail around costs,
Yes.
right? And so like, to me, that's like sort of the next step that I feel like,
So it was easy with the police station in the fact that it was being built.
yeah,
So it was very easy, and that's why I said what we got in Port City for the new building was probably really close. Because they've done it, they're doing it. A renovation or restoration, whichever way you wanna go. They have to have a formula they can use, because unless they come in and start ripping it out, they don't know what they don't know. And they'll never know that until they get into it. So they gotta give us a number, so we at least have something to get to the townspeople and say, here's the high side, it could be up to this, with any luck, it comes in under. So they gotta be able to do that without digging into a lot of it. I think some more homework could be done. I think what Tim is getting from civil consultants will help us as far as giving us an idea of the brickwork and the facade and seeing what that's gonna entail. We already know what the chimney needs with pointing of the bricks and the liners. We got.
and we've already spent that money.
Yeah, that's been spent. We
Yeah.
got a couple of quotes for windows.
Yeah.
So we're getting there, but I think it's gonna be a slow road, but I don't think we're gonna get to the position where we were with the police station, because we just don't know.
Yeah. So in the next few weeks, we'll have window estimate, which is a big piece of it. We'll have concrete facade estimate, right? What,
He's just gonna look at what's bad,
oh, okay,
and then we would have to reach out to a vendor
Got
and
it.
see how much it would cost for an estimate.
Got it, okay. okay. And then the elevator,
It's the elephant in the room,
yeah,
because that's a replace. They're not gonna fix that. Not as old as it is.
I think that we need to kind of be proactive about the elevator a little bit and at least understand and get estimates as to what that would look like, given that it's being so fussy right now.
I tested it on the way up, but I didn't know that the fire department was down in York, or I would have tested it. You got it. All that matters. Melissa and I made it up.
Okay, so what I have here for some next steps, I think we need to build this out a little bit more, is we want to find out the legality of taking Mr. Bernier up on his offer. We want to look into the video tour thing, build out an FAQs page. I think what we're sort of stuck on is the more detailed assessment piece. I mean, I feel like it seems like everyone's like, yes, we need more information. But I think we need to understand what that cost would look like. Tim, I'm kind of looking to you, like, what do you think we should, from getting more detailed cost information on the renovation? Because am I correct in saying that everyone is kind of more focused on, we need more information on the renovation costs?
Yes.
Yeah,
One of the things Port City had mentioned is if you want to get into that kind of detail, now,
Yeah.
if we have a $250,000 swing on just windows, then what kind of heating system do we want?
Mhm.
What kind of HVAC do we want? We would have to get more specific in the wants and needs for this building, I think, to get more specific on those costs this early in the stage.
Mhm, mhm.
But I disagree, then what did they give us an estimate based on then?
So you have like an allowance for each of those. So you can go middle of the road, low end, high end, so that's an allowance for those.
Our ask of Port City was very high level, was like, give us a high level number for build, give us a high level number for renovate, because that was the task that we had put out to them, was just like, give us a starting point. And so we didn't ask them to go into crazy detail because we hadn't had a lot of these discussions and stuff, because I think we were sort of assuming that those would come later. Just like what you were saying, Jen, as far as heating system, like, I have no idea. That's not my wheelhouse whatsoever. Sort of wondering, one of the things that we had thrown out at the last public hearing, like, would this be a good time to form a committee of some residents, one or two of us, to start working through some of that? What do you guys think?
Don't think we're there yet, because we don't, what are we gonna charge them to do?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, I'll volunteer to go on it when we get it. But I don't know what I could charge myself to do, because I could go look at a heating system that I think would be great for this building, right? But I don't know, again, it's not my strong suit, I don't do heating systems, I know people that do.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna help, so I think we need to decide. Between a little more public comment and a little more what Tim gets, I think we need to decide which direction we wanna go and then start piecemealing what we're gonna do from there.
Yeah.
My recommendation to the council is this, you've got two options, obviously, renovate, build new. We're gonna have to fix some of the problems that are facing us right now, which is, we know that. But I think the task of the council, for this, all the citizens, especially all the citizens that haven't reached out, haven't made any decisions, or haven't talked about this. We're counting on you to make a decision. I think you have to hone this down a little further as the body council to decide, are you gonna, which choice you're gonna go? And I agree with John. I think at that particular point, that's an all-in committee, and that's how I've done it in other towns where we built public safety buildings. Public works departments, parks departments and other buildings. It got, the direction came from the council down to, okay, this is the library. All right, now let's form a committee to build the library. I think but I think you guys are gonna do the work to get there, to figure out what direction you wanna, and how do you wanna fund it, how do you wanna finance it, how much it's gonna cost, how much you wanna ask the public to spend.
Yeah. Then
I think you can get the public involved and start talking about the next steps, but I think now so that it's your, should be yours.
So the outstanding thing is, how do we move forward and how do we get more information? I mean, what does everybody think about potentially reaching out to Mike Lassell, who did the police station, as like another piece of information?
What exactly did he do with the police station?
He was the architect,
The artist.
or his firm was.
So forth.
What'd you think?
Just wanna know if we could go sole source if we had to go for them.
What is that? What do you?
Sole source go directly to somebody without putting it out to the general.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
So it either has to be according down code, either an emergency, you have to have justification to the council, specialty to be like why. So if you had somebody that like knew the building,
Mhm.
that's a specialty, right?
Okay.
That's something you could say, well, he's been here all his life, yeah, we can use him as a, and then it saves all the money of someone coming in like Port City never been in this building until we called them. Mike Lawson been here for 45 years. I don't know.
Yeah, right, and then, they said, I have zero issues with Mike, what he does, he's done a lot for us.
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure, again, I'm going back to the legal thing tonight, I don't know why, but I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, we want to make
So
sure.
that is covered, and Mike, did talk to me at the public hearing, said he would help the town if needed, and he is retired. He sold the business to his assistant, so she runs the business. He is retired, and I will, Mike did offer us a lot of help in the very beginning of this. Was very innovative, had a lot of good ideas, but was way beyond what we were looking to do. Just, that's, my input for that.
Okay. What does everybody else think about potentially reaching out to him? Assuming we can from us, but if Tim, if you feel like that specialty. Ag,
But it depends what you want to do. If you want to hire him to do something, or do you want to ask him to volunteer to do something? That's like, that's the question you gotta ask yourself. You want to ask him to come in as a citizen and give you some input.
Yeah.
That's, you could ask Barbara to come in and give you one. But if you want to hire him, then that would be a contract, like a contract to do something, to either give you, like he could give you another price. That's what you gotta figure out. I'll do either what you want me to do. You just gotta tell me which one you want.
well, I think like maybe would it make sense, like, and again, I'm just throwing this out there, I wanna know what the rest of the council thinks, but. We could ask him to join us at a workshop and kind of find out what his thoughts are and stuff, and then. If, from there, we could then say, hey, we wanna hire you to give us more detail.
That's absolutely perfect.
Okay.
If that's something that the council felt was relevant.
You guys think that would be beneficial?
During another workshop?
Yeah, like a workshop and asking Mike Lassell to join us and find out what he,
His input would be evaluated, would be
Yeah.
fantastic,
yeah,
especially along with keeping it. To the way it looks and the historic side of it and whatnot, I think his input would be valuable to us.
Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that? I can't, let me get a read on you.
I can't either.
Okay,
I think more information is good, I think like in talking with, about Rob Bernier's offer. Now bringing in Mike Lassell, I know that we got a card from some other person that night too, I don't know, remember what that was for,
I think she was a facilitator,
okay.
yeah.
And then, is it gonna be the same RFP that Mike and Rob would be, or is it gonna be apple first going?
Okay, so. Again, what I just asked you, so you have to, you just want Mike as a citizen who was a retired civil consultant, architect, who did some work for the town in previous years at the police station. To come in his volunteer time and talk to the council as that person, because he's got expertise in that field. That freedom, you can do that. If you decide you want to do something more, then that would either be an RFP or a request for a contract. And your contracts can be, single source, site specific, but according to the code and charter, it's gotta have some particular reason to it. I mean, you just can't say it's Jeff's best friend, it's gotta be specific to, in this case, logistically, I guess you could say that Mike has 45 years, he knows the building, knows the community, and done work in town previously. So, depends if you want to hire him to do something, or if you're asking him to volunteer something. If you're asking him to volunteer, the same thing with the other guy. You're asking him to do voluntarily, do work for free for you. He's gonna come in and do a walkthrough, give you an estimate voluntarily for free. And that's what we do, and that's what would be if Phil Sausage says, yeah, you can do that, we'd sign a basic contract just saying, this is what you're gonna do for free, you're not gonna charge us. End of discussion, there'll be no charges, and he'll do it for free. As opposed to if you wanna pay for something, to do something, then you either decide to do an RFP, get 3 quotes, or bid, get 3 formal quotes, or you can do a sole source provider. provide a sole source tech.
So it seems like that's sort of a future decision, right? So I think it sounds like we need to find out the legality of taking up Mr. Bernier on his offer. And then if we reach out to Mike and have him join us in a workshop, those are two ways in which we can kind of gather some more information, and then we kind of decide from there. Okay, now, do we want to hire Mike's firm to do whatever? Do we, I think it's a decision for us to make later on, but I think this seems like a couple of good ways for us to get some additional information without a ton of financial burden yet.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think one of the things that we learned in our public hearing for the town hall is that we have a significant amount of unknown resources in our town with the people that live here, from contractors to landscapers to architects. I feel like if we just reached out to Mike, it would almost look like a setup to some people, because we could potentially be looking at hiring his company to do the work. Is there a way that we could publicize and say we are looking for architects in our town that would like to give their time and come and join us at a workshop, instead of just specifically pinpointing Mike? I just fear that some whispers might start of, oh, they're using him because they want to hire him again because he helped with the police station. So just for full transparency, I think that we should find the architects in our town, reach out to them and ask for their time. Not just come to a workshop, come to,
Tell us what you think.
and tell us what you think and if you have any ideas. I don't know about limiting it to that one architect in town, although his reputation precedes itself, especially in our town. Just to be fair and across the board, we might be an idea to throw out there.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Is that something that we could realistic?
If you give me another full-time person, yeah, I don't have enough staff to. I'd love to help you, but I've got a part-time person working 6-8 hours a week doing stuff.
But just to, like, if we just put something on the website or something and say,
Yeah, on
hey, if
Facebook,
you're,
on Facebook.
if you're a local business and you feel like you have thoughts,
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
and-
that's just
yeah,
a simple announcement.
Yeah,
You put it on the town webpage, you put it on the town Facebook page, and that's it, like, just a quick.
Yeah, we can do that. So
okay. What do you think about that?
I'll reserve comment.
I feel like I'm like way a couple of steps ahead every time you guys have to keep dragging me back, so I really apologize for that, but I think the information is good. Let's say that we have this whole band of architects come and give us awesome thoughts. What do we do with that? Because we have the Port City, the group that we've gone, where do we go from there? I'm just not understanding how this information is not just muddy in the waters to say, yeah, Port City stinks, we need to go, are we rebidding it all again? I just not understanding, I feel like I'm
The
living.
Port City assessment is not detailed enough for us to make a decision based on financials.
Okay.
Because like as Jen was saying, we have, the heating system, for example, we have like, there's a lot of like details that we haven't talked about at all. And again, the Port City RFP was strictly a high level. What does renovate look like versus build new? And so I think we have an onus to kind of dig deeper into the renovate side of things and get a little bit more detailed.
And the goal would be to be able to take that information to say, hey, we agree with renovating. That's what the goal is, to give us as a council where we feel we're gonna head.
I mean, I felt like from our conversation earlier, I feel like everyone was on the same page in that like we needed to get more information on the story for renovation, more detailed information. And so the purpose for bringing in additional people is to do exactly that, get more information, see how that squares with Port City. Are there things that were included in the Port City assessment that, in talking with other people, we could maybe scrap or change or, you know, and just continue to refine what that renovation story may look like.
Okay.
Another thing that just popped to mind for me and, is, and I have no idea how we should go about doing this, but if we were to go the renovation route, we need to figure out what the interim location for you all would be and where and how much would that be? That's a factor. And I don't even know where to start with that, but
We had kind of talked about it a little bit, in talking with Barbara. My first thought was Dover, right, because that's the closest,
Mhm.
assuming that there's nothing here in South River.
yeah,
But that's a whole other state. Notary work can't be done there.
we have to
State
say.
work, as my understanding, needs to be done in the state. So that puts us. Rockford, Sanford.
York is like spread out all over the place while they're currently being renovated, in like a bunch of different locations, I'm pretty sure.
It just makes it a nightmare for the staff, but.
So, Chair, if I may.
Yep.
I'll go, yes, sir, thank you.
So I think what you need to do is you'll need to get more information. And then that's gonna guide your direction one or two ways, hopefully. At that particular point, guiding your direction, all the stuff you're talking about, that's when you make that final decision. You say, okay, we as the council make a motion to vote to renovate the building. Okay, perfect. Then from there, that's when it starts, right? From there, the very first thing we do, then we put out the RFP to hire an architect. It's got nothing to do with Port City, got nothing to do with Mike Lasso.
Yeah.
We put out the RFP, we craft the RFP through legal and everybody else.
Yeah.
Exactly what we're gonna do, we're gonna renovate this building, we're gonna do this, and you know, this would all have to be, after you decide that, you get the funding, vote by the public. Then you get the RFP, and then you would get the architects, now that there's money there, the architects will all bid on it. Then the council itself that's a formal bid that we were talking about, you would bid that. And then the bids would be opened by the council at a council meeting. And then you would formally read the bids, then you would, as council, would do a workshop, review all those bids. And interview them, pick the three that you want to interview them, make a decision to what architect is gonna run the program. That's when it gets started, that's when the architect will tell you, okay, I gotta get the HVAC people, I gotta get the electrical people, amongst all that, we gotta talk to, they would sit down with you and say, where are we gonna relocate the employees to? That all comes into that package when you get started.
Okay.
So again, you're at 40,000 feet. You're gonna renovate, you're gonna build new. You gotta get all that stuff worked out first. Then we can flush the rest of it to a bid for professional services. You hire your architect and your architect walks you through that whole thing. You know, then the architect would say, okay, so the first thing we need to do tonight is we need to sit with the council and talk about what do we want for the floor plan, what's it gonna look like? And then get the architectural design. From there, they hire your subcontractors, they'll hire, putting it out to bid for, you know, where can we go to another building and blah, blah, blah. The architects will be responsible for projects.
Yeah, and we went through, I wasn't around for the architect bid for the police station, but for the construction company for Allied Cook, we went through the whole process. To hire the contractor ultimately, so I think Jeff, like to kind of like answer your question, so hopefully Tim clarified that, like.
That's helpful, yeah.
There's many decisions ahead of us. I think that you know, who's ultimately gonna do the work for us is one of those, but I think before we get there, we have to figure out what our path forward is gonna be. And this whole conversation is kind of around gathering some more information to help us make that decision. And so to me, I would love to potentially get some other estimates from other groups, if we can do that in a way that's not gonna cost us a lot of money, great, but just to kind of gut check the numbers we already have. Because, you know, just from different conversations and stuff that I've had, some comments that we heard from the public, like, it sounds like there potentially might be a little bit of some flex with the renovation estimates that we got from Port City, and me personally, I wanna really work through all of that, before we make a decision and make sure we can put that out to the public as well. Okay, so next steps, we're going to have a workshop at a later point. I think it probably would be good for us to start meeting in a workshop, maybe monthly, just to kind of force us to keep talking about this so we can keep things moving forward. And to host a workshop, and invite definitely Mike Lassell, and to Melissa's point, kind of put a notice out there if there's anyone else who wants to share their expertise or any information that they may have. Tim, you're gonna look into the legality of looking into the offer from Mr. Bernier. We're gonna look into the video tour idea, so we can get that out onto the website. Jess, you said you wanted the page open rates.
Just to see how we're doing for communication.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Maybe that's just something, as we move forward, like in the manager's report, if that's something we could just get at every council meeting, like,
Once we figure out what to do, we should be able to.
and then we can just kind of keep an eye on that. Hopefully over time that number goes up. And then the kind of financial assessment scenario analysis. I know that you all need more information on that, but what I guess, Jen, what other information would you need to kind of give us like scenarios, I guess, for what the financial piece would look like from a bond perspective?
Every audit, he does do a budget, a debt ratio.
Yep.
You know, to make sure we know where we are.
Yep.
So looking, like what Jess said, the different projects, we've looked ahead. I wrote to fire station, transfer station, things that we may want to do. Again, we don't have the number to do those things, but I could just make a timeline that says these are the things that are in our future that we need to consider when we're getting, a 30-year note.
Yeah, okay.
Cause you still gotta look at things like, so town dump trucks, we still got 2 more to buy.
Yeah.
A fire truck could be anywhere from $850 to $1 million, police cars are 60,000. Tuesday night we'll have a new police car here for you, those are 50,000 a piece,
77 fully equipped.
77 fully equipped.
For those though, we have the, I forget what we call it, but the kind of like rolling
Yes.
CIP, yes, thank you.
But we do, but we only can incur so much debt, right?
Yes.
There's only so much the taxpayer, unless the taxpayers want to give us an unlimited checkbook, which I'm happy for, then we'll go for it. But, so I have to match that debt, we have to expand that out. And then just like when you're building a building, that unexpected incurred expense, we could also throw that in the pile too. If we lose a dump truck, we only get the actual cash value of what it's worth for the rest of its life, that we don't get full replacement value.
Yeah.
So we gotta make sure that we have that. And then we spend money every year, our designated to balance the budget, so we gotta look at that too. So all those factors would have to be combined, so what we need is a closer number,
Yeah,
tighter number. How's that tighter number? Would be that correct?
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I wonder is,
Yeah.
if people who want us to renovate, do they want the exterior to look the same and they don't care what's inside? Or do they want us to be here in this building as well? And I think we've heard a little bit of both.
mhm.
That was just a question.
I mean, I can kind of like opine on my take on that. I mean, I feel like the sentiment is to for sure keep like the exterior of the building as is, from a aesthetic standpoint, keep the green space. And I guess on the inside, I don't know if anyone else has a take on that. And I think. Yeah, I don't know.
I said, I go back to my earlier statement, we need to educate the public on what we need to do. Because again, we cannot give our workers a plywood desk with a foam cushion. Right, there's rules, there's laws in the state that we can't do that, so. It all needs to be upgraded, it's gonna look different inside, it's not gonna look this way, it's gonna look new and modern.
Right.
And that's fine, as long as the outside, when you drive by, like you do in any small town. Holton, if you've ever been to Holton, they got a beautiful square there, a movie theater, a bakery, and it's fantastic, it looks like it's out of a movie. Southborough is that way, and they wanna keep that, and I get it, so the inside. Maybe all modern, but the outside needs to stay the way it is and fit the town.
I think updated, better word than modern. Cause I feel like that if we went like super aesthetically modern inside. Anyway,
I don't think we
It's
can
not
find
fair.
anything not modern now, but that's just.
Jen, did you have anything else? Yeah, thoughts? Anyone else? Anything?
Do we also need to kind of information gather if we were to build? Like, how many sites are we talking about, or where would those, is it too early?
Way too
Yeah.
early.
I feel like the decision of just build new and renovate is a big one. And then if we were to decide on building new, then we have another round of big decisions, and that's sort of what happened with the police station. Well, the police station was for sure built new, but
It was built new, we were gonna use town-owned property, and then it shifted to. That wasn't the best idea, so we ended up swapping. Property for property and ended up on the park gate, so. It was a long process, as I said, this isn't gonna get done this year. I'd be very surprised if it gets done next year by the time we get through all this, I think we're looking at 26 before you're even seriously looking at this. But we need to set the groundwork now, get everybody on par, and we need to fix what we need to fix here, so the employees are safe, comfortable, and so aren't the patrons coming in. Like you said, the elevator, we need to address that, because we've already had people fall coming out of it, get stuck. It needs to be addressed.
yeah.
Madam Chair, if we can, I know she's super busy and she has a lot going on. But I'd like to see if we can get code enforcement officer Jenny involved a little bit.
Mhm.
And just for clarification purposes, and even if she can't come to our next workshop. I think there's a lot of people that, yes, so when Port City gave us the evaluation of things that weren't ADA compliant, where things were out of code. There's a lot of questions, it's just people wanting to be fully informed of, well, why is the stairwell not ADA compliant, or why is it out of code?
Mhm.
And if Jenny could come to the workshop and maybe touch base on some of those, because, another question is, everyone keeps saying the building is not insulated.
Mhm.
So does a building have to be insulated? Is that a code issue? Because if we redo the windows, we redo the roof, then do we have to insulate the building?
Mhm.
And so I would just like to, if Jenny at some point, if she could come to the workshop, great. If not, if she could, in all her spare time, kind of review the information provided by Port City.
Mhm.
And maybe just give this is why this is not ADA compliant, or this is why this is out of code.
Mhm.
Just so people can better understand why these things need to be addressed.
Yeah,
So,
I'm wondering what,
No, can't do it. First off, it's a legal question. It has to be asked of me because that's operations on my scope. And the reason we don't do that, the reason we hire architects for that reason is because then it'll become a public wiper of all the things that they said, well, she's just saying that because she works there, she wants a new building, number one. Number two, she just doesn't have the time to. She's 28 inspections, I can't put that on her. That's for the council to hire a professional architect and answer that question. I'm sorry, I can't do it. She just doesn't have, yes, so I can answer your question, according to state building codes, yes, the building needs to meet a certain R value factor being renovated. All new buildings, the stairwells don't meet because of space, lighting, several other things. I could have her make a quick list if you would like and present that to them. I will present it to you. I could have her do that, but as far as like coming in and being involved in the process, I can't commit an employee to that. That's not her job description and you can't do that. That's really why you have to go out and get an architect to tell you that stuff.
and I think like a lot of that stuff, what I hope that we can do is if we do this kind of real estate video tour, we can have go to the stairwell, and then as Tim was saying, like some little box or something that will pop up and that will say the lighting is whatever, the stairwell is too, or the railing is too short, and like try to highlight a lot of that, which I mean, we have a lot of that information from Port City, but I'm sure like as we kind of refine that, we can, you know,
I mean,
reference building.
I can actually put together a quick thing that'll tell you what is required in a renovation, whether it's commercial or residential. And that's old stuff, she can do that for you, but to come in and tell you about the stairways and
Yeah,
everything that, she just doesn't have that time, and she'd have to do an inspection here. And then that provides a kind of a legal issue that now you've got an employee doing, you know, the employee can say, it's just not a, no. That's why you hire an architect, an architectural firm, or somebody to do that.
Well, before you do ask her to do that, Tim, why don't you give me a minute to just review Port City's presentation again that we have in supporting documents, just to make sure that there wasn't an oversight, that there wasn't more detailed information provided, and
There wasn't, Council Costello, because we didn't ask that. We didn't specify that in the, you know, the RFP that the council gave you was very open and generic, kind of, you know, cost of a new building, versus renovating this building. And basically what that was like, am I correct? That's what you gave me. They didn't really ask me to dig down too deep. I mean, I don't think Jenny will have any issue just telling me, look, this is, you know, or telling the council, this is, you know, writing a letter saying, this is what would, you know, these are all the factors that bring the building up to code during a renovation. She'll do that for you, but I just to have her come in and, you know, tell you each section, I think is really not her job. Really an architect's job, but I'm sure she'd be happy to help with that, and she can do probably blast that out in 5 minutes. If that'll help, I'll have that for, I'll see if I can have it for the council meeting, if not, for next workshop.
okay, on that note, from the next workshop standpoint, so today is the first Tuesday of the month. Do we want to sort of make this a standing meeting for us? Because we normally meet the second and fourth. So go forward, if we have a standing first Tuesday of the month workshop for town hall, does that work for everybody? Generally, like, I'm sure that there'll be days, you know, where some of us can't make it, but what, does that not work for you?
Donna, you will need to put this on an agenda, at a public meeting, and vote on it.
Okay,
Make a motion that way. You can get a consensus vote tonight, but you'll need to follow up with a motion and a vote at an official meeting.
okay, but so one of our next steps is to schedule a cadence for workshops. Okay, so I've repeated them numerous times. The next step that I have, I think the high level story is that we want to get more information on what it would look like to renovate. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, anything else that anyone wants to bring up? About anything? we missed? Tim, Jen, anything? Okay. All right, I will, I can kind of summarize what I've got here and I'll just send it out to the group so everyone's got it. We can put it, we can post that to the website, what our next steps are as a result of this workshop. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll write that up today or tomorrow and send it out to this group, and then we'll make sure to get it onto the website. And we'll have some more information at our council meeting next week, and we'll schedule workshops next week. And good. Good. Okay, all right, we'll go ahead and close the workshop. Thank you, everyone.